So after you get them all marked out, it just looks like this. A line of holes, a line of marks that goes all the way down the edge of the sheath. So then after that, I just take my hammer and I either take a wooden mallet, which the one I have here is a little light, or I take a small ball peen hammer and I just tap it straight down. And I will say that I have my ice pick ground a little bit so that it is a little easier to pull out. It's not a full tapered ice pick, it was ground so that it didn't have quite as much taper. And then I punch it through till it just barely comes out the other side, and then I pull it out. And I move on to the next one. And I will say, as you're doing this, you want to make sure your welt always stays in the same spot. And another way to do that is I have a tool here that I made, and it's basically just a plastic handle with a tiny little finish nail in it. And what you could do is you could take one of your holes down here towards the bottom, and you could use this little plastic nail. First you punch it down here with your hammer and ice chisel. And you just punch it so you got a hole that goes all the way through, like so. And then what I do is I take this and I put it through there so it's all the way through there, like so. And then I take it and onto my piece of wood here, and I just give it a couple taps. Now it ain't going nowhere because I have my first hole punched here and I got my rivet through it. Now on this end of the welt I have this pin going through there, and this pin's right through into the wood, so it actually holds your leather sheath a little bit too. So now you can just take your ice pick and you can just keep on going right along this thing and just start punching them. And a lot of times I'll just pick it up a little bit and give it a feel and see if that's sticking out on the other side. If it's not, there it is that time. And then I pull it out and go to the next one. So let me go ahead and punch these out, and I'll get back with you. Well, okay, so now we got all the holes in it, through the front, through the back. They didn't turn out totally perfect, but that's okay, it is what it is. So now we got to sew this thing up, and I'm going to tilt this camera down and zoom in on it so you guys can get an idea exactly how we're doing this. So how I do it is when I start to sew, and I actually need to cut this string off, but let me get started first. On my very first stitch, I go through the hole on this side, and I only go through a little ways until I can get it up and through the middle of it like this. And then after I get it up and through here, I pull it through. Like so. And then I take it off. I take my needle off. And I leave about, I don't know, as much as you want really, but I usually only leave about 6 inches hanging out, like so. And then I take the roll that's on the other end of the string, and I measure out about how much I think it's gonna take to sew this thing up, and I cut it off. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. And then after I cut it off, I go ahead and I rethread it into the needle on the end that I had cut off, And sometimes it's tricky, but once you get it through there, it's okay. Like so. Okay, so now I got part of it going through the sheath on one side, and the rest of it's hanging out the other end. So then the same side that I had gone through earlier, I take and I put my first stitch all the way through the piece, like so. And I pull it all the way through. Try not to get it tangled around the sheath. And I pull it all the way through, and as it comes down tight between over these two holes, and that is your first half stitch. So then you flip the sheath over like so, and you go through the next hole like so, and you take it through that way. And what it does is, when you do that, keep your loose line out of the way, and you bring it down tight, it puts your other half stitch right here. So now you got your basically your half stitch in it, and you just keep doing it. You keep flipping it and going to the next hole and run everything through. And while you're doing this, you got to remember to keep it tight. You know, every time you get down to the thing, you give it a little pull, not so much that you pull your loose piece through, but then you flip it again, you go to the next hole, and you run these all the way down like this until you come all the way down to the end. And when I get to the end, I'll show you what to do next. I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I'm back. So I got it sewed down all the way down to the last two holes, and what you do is you just keep sewing like like how we started, and you go ahead and you pull it tight, and I just hold it a little bit, flip it over, go back through the hole again, and when you go through that last hole, you actually stay on this side and you go right back down through the next hole. And you'll be able to tell where you're at because there will be no thread between the two holes. And when you go ahead and you run your stitch, your half stitch, back through that hole, it fills it in and that makes it look like a full stitch. I don't know if that's coming in or not, so then you're back to doing the same old stuff. So then you're back to doing the same old stuff. You pull it tight, and then you go right back down, and it's hard to see. Hold on, let me adjust the camera a little bit. Or here, that's better. So then you go right back down another hole, like so, the next hole I should say. And you take it through, try not to jab yourself. And now you're going through holes that already have thread through them, so it's gonna be really tight. So a trick to getting them through there a little easier is a pair of pliers, and I actually have a pair right here. So then you can grab it with your pliers and just pull it through, and then you pull it tight. Give it a good pull, and then go back through the next hole. And like I said, you got two threads going through there now, so things get a little tight. Sometimes you gotta use pliers to get it through, but it's not a big deal. Most of the time it'll fall right through there, but a couple of these I punched a little bit tighter. They were a little tighter than I wanted them, but that's okay. So then you flip it, give it a good pull, and then you go right back down the hole again, the next hole. And you just keep on doing that till you get to the end. And as you're going back, you'll notice that you're actually filling all the empty spots in that you didn't have thread before. And what it does is it makes it look like it's a full stitch. you're completing the stitches is what you're doing, because when you went down it the first time, you were doing basically half stitches, and now we're going back across it the second time the opposite way, and we're filling in all the empty spots, which is turning it into full stitches. And I'm not sure what kind of stitch this is. I keep wanting to say a saddle stitch, but I don't think that's right. I'd have to look it up, or you guys could look it up. And you know, this isn't the only way to stitch this. There's many different ways you can stitch it, so it's kind of like up to you. I just figured I'd try to show you this way, that way you had an idea how to do it at least one way. And I know you guys are probably thinking, oh man, it looks kind of tough, but it really isn't. Once you get going on it, you'll be like, oh shoot, this is easy. I know what he's doing. And you just keep working your way down it till you get to the end. Now when I get to the end, I will show you what you got to do next. So I'll be right back. Hey guys, I wanted to add one more thing into this video, where I talked about how you could do away with the stitches and just use rivets to make one of these axe sheaths. I wanted to show you actually what one would look like, and here's one that I made earlier, and this one actually ties in the back and comes loose this way, and it's tight, and that's kind of the way I like it. And what's nice about these cords is if you break the cord, all you gotta do is replace the cord. Then you got two holes in the sides, and to loosen it, all you do is pull some of the cord off one side and then pull it out the back, and the sheath comes right off. But anyways, that's another way of doing it. Figured I'd show you guys how it was done that way too. And you know, actually, the way these are set up, you almost don't even have to tie this in the back, but I tie it in the back just for a safety thing. At least you know it is never going to come off when it's tied in the back. And it only takes a second to do it. So anyways, that's another way of making one of these sheaths. And you know, no stitching required on this one, just some cutting out and a few rivets, and you're good to go. So okay, thank you. Okay guys, this video is kind of running long, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this thing up into 2 or 3 parts. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you, and if you like the video, like it, share, subscribe. I'm looking for some more subscribers and stuff, so you know, just hang with me, and if you want to subscribe, that'd be great. Thank you.